Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator Mark Lowcock completed his two-day mission to Malawi on Saturday. He met with the president of the country and other senior government leaders, as well as development partners, and heard from Malawians struggling through the current lean season. Following projections at the end of 2018 showing that 3.3 million people would be severely food insecure in January and March, Mr. Lowcock earlier released $10 million from the UN Central Emergency Response Fund. And also from our humanitarian colleagues, I can tell you that we are concerned by reports of civilian casualties in Syria, both due to continued hostilities and unexploded ordinances left behind in the northwest part of the country. At least 4 civilians were reportedly killed, many more injured during shelling in Idlib, in Hama and Aleppo governorates in the first 3 days of March. Yesterday, 2 civilians were reportedly killed when an unexploded ordnance went off in northwest Aleppo. The threat of explosive hazards of all kinds remains a major problem and a major concern in Syria, with more than 10 million people estimated to live in contaminated areas. 1 in 2 people live at risk of explosive hazards. Meanwhile, our humanitarian colleagues in the country remain gravely concerned about the situations of tens of thousands of civilians who have fled the last Daesh-held areas of Al-Baghouz in rural Deir ez-Zor and are now hosted at the Al-Hol camp. There are now 54,800 people in the camp, of whom over 90% are women and children. And staying in the region, our humanitarian colleagues warn that following several days of heavy rainfall, possible flooding, an estimated 300,000 people in 60 communities across Gaza are at risk of displacement due to fragile infrastructure and potential property damage. The ability of authorities in Gaza to respond to emergencies is limited due to funding shortages, import controls, and the ongoing energy crisis and the limited capacity of Palestinian civil defense. Several mitigation measures have been implemented, including advanced clearing of existing drainage system and the deployment of mobile pumps, many of which were provided by the UN at various hotspots. Flooding monitoring teams have also been deployed. And the UN Environment Programme today released its annual report, which highlights the agency's work on issues from fighting air and marine pollution to helping nations meet their goals of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. The report says that while 2018 was a challenging year, there was a growing global commitment from governments, civil society, and businesses to tackle environmental challenges. An example of this was the accelerated action to eliminate plastic pollution, which was a theme for last year's World Environment Day. The UNEP campaign reached people in 190 countries, and India pledged to phase out single-use plastics by 2022. The report is available on UNEP's website. And in Paris today, UNESCO is holding its first global conference to promote a humanist approach to artificial intelligence. The conference aims to foster dialogue between public and private sector, technical community, media, and academia, and ensure that artificial intelligence serves humanity's sustainable development goals. Conference participants include Cedric Villani, the winner of the 2010 Field Medal, the highest distinction in mathematics, Nanjira Sembuli, the senior policy manager of the Web Foundation, a member of the Secretary General's high-level panel on digital cooperation, and Sai Lau, the senior executive Vice President of Tencent. And lastly, the Vienna-based International Narcotics Control Board will launch its annual report for 2018 in Vienna tomorrow morning. That's 10 a.m. GMT, 5 a.m. Here in New York, if you are awake. The report examines the global drug control situation with a focus on the risks and benefits of medical use of cannabis and a look at legislative developments on the non-medical use of cannabis. A special supplement to the report looks at the progress made in improving global availability of internationally controlled medicines. The launch will be webcast. Voila. Mr. Bard, yes, that's it. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Happy Monday. Mr. Bard, you look over-eager today.
Algeria.
Yes.
So there are a lot of demonstrations against the 5th term of President Bouteflika running again for elections Have you had anything for us on this? Any comment from the Secretary General? Thank you.
Just to say that we've been following the situation closely. We've been very much monitoring the situation. We've seen demonstrations having taken place that so far have been generally peaceful. But we'll leave it at that for the time being.
Follow-up. Obviously, it seems there is a new trend of in the region and elsewhere in the world to extension for presidents or rulers in the region. Any comment from the SG on this
No,
trend?
I think we'll leave the analysis of trends to analysts, excuse me. Yes, ma'am. And then Edie, sorry.
Steph, any updates on Yemen? Mr. Griffiths said like 10 days ago when he was here that the redeployment was imminent that day or in the next couple of days. We haven't heard anything more. And did WHO make any determination on the Red Sea mills on the wheat? I know they visited,
no, I have
sorry,
no.
not WHO.
Sorry, I have nothing more from WFP that they were obviously fumigating. They're fumigating the wheat, and I think they're waiting for some analysis on the water, possible water damage. On Mr. Griffiths, he is in Riyadh for discussions with officials there. We'll then be making some other regional stops. We're obviously continuing to work with the parties for the implementation of the redeployment that was agreed to on February 18th. Discussions are going on. We have nothing to announce further at this point. Ms. Lederer, sorry.
Two questions. First, Russia has suspended its participation in the Intermediate Range Nuclear Treaty signed in 1987 in response to the U.S. decision to withdraw from the treaty as well. Does the Secretary General have any comment on now both sides withdrawing from this treaty?
The Secretary General said that the INF is a very important part of the international arms control architecture. It has contributed tangibly to the maintenance of peace and stability, notably in Europe. We very much hope that the U.S. and the Russian Federation in the coming months are able to resolve their differences as to regards to the treaty. Your second question.
And Juan Guaido has just returned to Caracas. I wonder whether the Secretary General has any response to his call for more demonstrations and comments from others saying the only way that this is going to be resolved is through dialogue.
Well, it would come as no surprise to you that we would agree that the only way the situation can be resolved is through political dialogue. Watching the return, I was just watching some of the coverage as we were coming in. We obviously remain very concerned about the situation in Venezuela, and I think it's important from the Secretary General's viewpoint that all political actors in Venezuela and abroad make all efforts to lower tensions. Yes.
Some countries have expressed concern about the safety of Guaido upon his return to Venezuela. Now he's there. Does the UN have any concerns?
From what I've seen, he was able to enter the country without incident. But that's as of 5 minutes ago. That's what I've seen. Our general concerns, I think, have already been expressed. We'll obviously keep watching the situation closely. That's it. Thank you all for coming for this wonderful briefing. Hope you learned something. If not, come back tomorrow.